Everybody. You're watching The Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I'm here with Ron Placone, host of Get Your News On with Ron.
Hey, Graham.
We were talking about the Build Back Better bill, and you were discussing some of the bill laws in there about broadband. And I wanted to get into that a little more because that's a subject you're passionate about, and you've done a lot of work on that. You and I have talked about the importance of municipal broadband. And we always point to like cities like Chattanooga that have really fast Wi-Fi or fast internet, and it's cheap and affordable. And I've been looking at traveling more and countries that have, digital nomad visas, and all these like countries like cities like Medellin, I think like Kuala Lumpur, all in Asia, they have the fastest internet. It makes ours look like a dial-up from the 90s. Right. And they're enticing remote workers to work there, or live streamers, whatever. Yeah. And they're already, of course, ahead of America in terms of that.
There's a lot of places that are kind of catching on to that. In Italy, where I got a lot of family, there's a lot of places in Italy that have a declining population, especially like villages that's maybe close to, some of the villages near Rome, all the young people want to go to Rome. So these villages that are these beautiful places, they're kind of getting left behind. So what a lot of them have done is they have wired themselves for what they call it smart working. Because my buddy, who's actually an expat who lives in Italy, told me this, and it's kind of funny. Because they don't freaking live to work in places like Italy, like they have a much better work-life balance than we do in the States and in a lot of other places too, even. The concept of work from home was just not something they had. Like they just didn't have that. Like there was no word for it in their language. Like if you said like lavoro per la casa or something like that, they wouldn't know what the hell they're like, what? So they started calling it smart working. That was what they call it, because that when the pandemic hit and they had to do that, they were like, oh yeah, we don't really have a word for this. So they call it smart working. So what they did is they wired these places for smart working. And they're like, we want smart workers. So if you make your living online or whatever else, and you just need an internet connection, they want people to come there and work there and live there. And it's kind of crazy. Like they'll pay you money if you have a baby. They'll pay you money if you start a business. So places in the world are kind of catching on to this. I mean, it really is one of the ways society is changing. And I think in some ways it's a bit of a silver lining throughout all this.
Yeah. And so how do you see because you talked about there's some positive stuff in the Build Back Better Act with broadband.
There's some money for it, really. I mean, there is money for broadband. How it will be distributed, how it will be utilized, how far it will go. Well, that we have yet to see, because you hope that the right players are involved with it. You hope like organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, like the Institute of Local Self-Reliance, people who have had success in municipal broadband, who get the right people on the job to make this successful, which keep in mind, municipal broadband has pretty much a 100% success rate. There have been a few times where cities have completely mishandled their resources and municipal broadband projects have fizzled out and weren't completed. But whenever they're done right, they're funded right, and they're completed, 100% of the time, they offer better internet at a better price than the big cable companies are offering. Chattanooga caught on to this very early on. They invested in their own power grid. They offered municipal broadband to people. They have some of the best internet, not just in the country, but in the world. And I think people pay about an average of $65 a month for it. Some of the best internet. And now, because of like the global village that we live in, it keeps getting more and more. People are moving there because of that. Businesses are moving there. I mean, it's, the topic of municipal broadband. If you said, Ron, pretend you are the most diehard libertarian and argue for municipal broadband, I could do it. If you said, Ron, pretend you're the most conservative guy in the world and argue for municipal broadband, I could do that too. If you said, Ron, just talk about municipal broadband because you love it as a lefty. I mean, it's one of those issues where it really is just such an obvious thing. And it's not a left-wing issue or a right-wing issue. It's just something we should have. It's an issue of, unless you are one of the few profiteers of big cable, you should be 110% for this. And that's why people are. So yeah, the Build Back Better Act does have some broadband investments, but hey, Joe Biden's a guy who started his campaign at a bunch of Comcast executives' houses. You can be sure that big cable has a hand in this. So whenever there is some, crumbs thrown to the plebs, we got to make sure we're using it right. Here in California, a broadband for all bill was signed into law, which was good. It was a good thing. Gavin Newsom signed that bill. That was a good thing. People were pressuring him to sign it, and he did. Great. But now the task becomes, how do we make the most of this? And how can cities get involved? How can places get involved? And you have to be proactive, or it will just kind of fall by the wayside.
Well, yeah, I guess the question is like, the fear is, I mean, obviously, let's hope these groups like the Electronic Frontier Fund get involved. But doesn't it seem like, since this is coming from corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans, that like big tech and the cable companies are going to be all over this broadband thing and try to fuck it up?
Oh, totally, man. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And the investment is, the last time I spoke about it, it was with Shahid Buttar, who, like from a tech standpoint can talk to these things way better than I can. And he was saying, yeah, it's nowhere near enough. It is something. It is more than zero, but it's nowhere near enough. So it's not like in the Build Back Better Act, all the solutions are there. A much better piece of policy was Bernie Sanders' broadband high-speed internet for all bill. Bernie Sanders had like a genuine bill that was signed off on by all the digital rights organizations that really would have solved this and given us, nationwide municipal broadband, basically. Of course, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So we're kind of on our own. And what this infrastructure bill will do, though, is it does provide some infrastructure potential, some infrastructure possibilities. When people make the most of that, well, then you might see more states following California's lead, because maybe they'll be like, oh, this one town in Massachusetts succeeded in getting municipal broadband. This other one didn't. This one town of 7,000 has it, and they get this baller internet, which, by the way, I mean, you can go to the website muninetworks.org and look this stuff up. I mean, dude, there's these towns of like 7,000 people who have some of the best internet in the country. In Massachusetts, there's a town in Kentucky that, and it's all just residents kind of got together and they were like, hey, Comcast is offering us some bullshit. We don't want it. We're just going to do it ourselves. We can do it. And they do it. And then they're just like, hey, we have great internet. And I mean, out in the UK, a bunch of farmers were sick of the crappy internet they were getting. So they took their tractors and they laid cable down. So now they have better internet than you and I have in rural, like, England on these farms, because they were just like, fuck this. We're not going to tolerate this anymore. They just laid fiber with their tractors. So my point is, it's not some huge Rubik's Cube to get high quality internet to people. It can be done, and it can be done in anywhere from a major city, i.e. Chattanooga, Tennessee, to a town of 7,000 people, i.e. Charlemont, Massachusetts. There's more than one way to accomplish this. There are contractors that specialize in this type of work, and there are other organizations that can help you find the right contractors at the right price. I mean, it can be done. I'm not a tech expert in this. I can't explain the nitty gritty of it. Like, well, this wire goes to this. I can't do that. But I'm someone who does follow the policy, and I can point you in the direction of the right people to talk to. And that's why I cover this issue a lot on my show. So that is one piece of the Build Back Better Act that, is worth diving into and seeing, okay, how can we make the most of this? It's not going to solve the digital divide in this country. It's not going to solve our broadband needs by any means, but it's up to us to kind of, an analogy that Jason Isbell, who you can Google him later, Graham, I'm sure you don't know who that is, but he's a pretty great singer-songwriter. And Jason Isbell was talking about the Nashville music scene, where, the Nashville music scene was dominated by pop country people, but then slowly but surely it kind of became a town for a lot of Americana and a lot of rock and roll and a lot of roots music. And Jason Isbell described it, and he's like, look, it's like the music industry was some big freaking apple tree, And the pop country guys, they were just taking all the apples and taking all the apples. But some of those apples were falling on the ground, and they were the apples they didn't want. But what the rest of us were doing is we were taking those apples and we were making amazing apple pies, and we were doing all these great things. And eventually we had enough force to be reckoned with to say, hey, this is our city too. So going by that analogy, it's up to us when the oligarchs are taking all the apples and the billionaires are taking all the apples and they're taking all, they're writing the laws, they're taking the apples, but some of these apples are falling on the ground. It is up to us to take those apples and to make some great pies with them and to use what we do have. It sucks that that's the world we live in, but we are an empire. We are an oligarchy. That is what we are.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. It'll be really because there's sort of this is where the oligarchs and the billionaires are caught in a rock and a hard place in terms of they want to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then faster internet makes for more online businesses. And there's a lot of ways they're making big money online. I mean, you think about whatever, Twitch, people are, gamers are making money on Twitch, but Twitch is getting a percentage of the, I mean, YouTube with the super chats, I mean, all this stuff. So it's like, they're kind of like, well, if we give everybody really great internet, then there's actually more money to be made.
That's the thing. And again, that's kind of like what I was saying, where it's like, dude, I could pretend I'm a Republican and argue for this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's really, and it's just special interests that are stopping this. It's just a handful of lobbyists that are really stopping this, because even if you are, just the most hyper conservative, or neoliberal or whatever else, you have to kind of take a step back. And I mean, hey, this was said to me by somebody who is actually a pretty conservative person. And I actually agree with this sentiment. They said, if you're not thinking globally, get ready to be left behind. So if the United States is just kind of thinking, we're just going to keep going with our shitty broadband and allow this organized duopoly to continue, they're going to get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so all you business people, you're going to get left the fuck behind.
Well, let's talk. I mean, that's a great point, because as I said at the top of this, you think about all these cities that I've talked about, Medellin, that have brought in broadband, they like super fast internet. And then you've got, as I tied in, like El Salvador bringing in Bitcoin. So now, and I'm assuming that, I bet you they're going to start, if they don't have really fast internet, they're going to get it. Mm-hmm. So now you're a business owner, and it's like, I follow a lot of these crypto channels, and these crypto guys go to these countries that treat them better, business wise, tax wise, and internet wise. And so now you have an online business, and you want to do, these cities are going to go, come here, and they're going to give you whatever tax breaks or easy visa, digital visas, or whatever you can use their great healthcare. And it's like, you and I have talked privately about, moving to countries that have better internet, better healthcare. And we're online businessmen, basically. You and I are online entrepreneurs, and we've both done all right with crypto, and we could, I'm really thinking about taking my business elsewhere, and I'm just a small business owner. Think about the bigger companies with 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion worth of business. And they're going to go, well, the internet in America sucks. They don't want to do crypto. I don't want to, I want to do this. The infrastructure is falling apart. There's gun deaths every day. I'm out. I'm going to take my business elsewhere. I want a fast, educated workforce, and I can't get that here. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's fighting with each other. So they're going to start to see businesses going, bye. I mean, they're going to leave, or they're going to go to emerging markets, or there's going to be a brain drain, and
yeah,
America's going to get left behind.
I mean, dude, all right. So I'm in Los Angeles. It is so mind blowing that the frickin' one of the capitals of the world in show business has internet this painfully shitty.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. I mean, it's mind blowing. I mean, my internet's not totally terrible, and I pay for it because I have a business account. And if we have municipal broadband, it's amazing. Los Angeles hasn't figured this out yet. Chattanooga, Tennessee has.
Right.
Los Angeles has not.
The city that has where all these streaming services, HBO, Hulu, Netflix, their headquarters are here in Los Angeles, but
Right.
we have crappy internet.
Yeah, if it wasn't for like a free and open internet, these places wouldn't even be possible. They wouldn't even exist. And meanwhile, we don't have solid broadband solutions right here, and that's the United States for you. That is and why it's because California is part of the United States, where you have this organized freaking duopoly, and the way these big cable companies work, they lobby hard, and they're going to lobby in places where they can get the most. And in Los Angeles, you think they want to lose that customer base? Hell no, they don't want to lose that customer base. And you bring up things like municipal broadband. And hey, I've done it in 2 different places. I've done it in San Pedro, the neighborhood I live in now. I've done it in Pasadena, California, where I used to live. In both cases, people looked at me like I was proposing that we all get wings and fly in the air. Like, no, this is a doable freaking thing. And you're the one not being realistic because you think that Sandy, Oregon and Chattanooga, Tennessee, no offense to either of those places. Chattanooga, Tennessee is actually a wonderful place. I've never been to Sandy, Oregon, but I'm sure it's lovely too. I'm not bashing either of those places. I'm just saying, you can't tell me they have some Rubik's Cube that they've solved. They have some golden ticket that a place that has the 5th largest GDP in the goddamn world can't also figure out. This is a deliberate choice, and it's letting a few basically give the rest a lower quality of life because of it. And broadband's just one, for instance, of that.
Yeah. And when I talk to like people that have moved, that Americans that have moved abroad, they always just say, man, I thought America was so great. And then I left. And it's like I get great internet. The healthcare is great. The public transportation is great. The food is good. The people are nice. Like it's just like, and America thinks it's so awesome, but everyone's going to be leaving. I mean, so especially big business. And what are you going to have left? And nobody wants to work anymore. The big, the mass, what is it
people
called?
want to work. They just want to get paid fairly.
Well, yeah. And the mass
people don't want to pay them fairly.
Yeah. And you're seeing, like, I was at a Del Taco and they're offering $21 an hour and people are still not taking the job because like, I don't want to do this crap. Like, I don't want to do this crappy work. And then what's happening is you've got a lot of, people through the pandemic decided I don't want to work for whatever reason, or they're a 2-income household and they're like, the second income is just a couple $100s a month more after they pay for childcare. And it's like, well, why don't we just stay home and save some money elsewhere? We can do that. You've got all these not just young people, but I saw it too, just on TikTok, mainly younger people going, well, I can make money on Twitch or TikTok or YouTube. Why should I go flip burgers? Like, why should I work when I can just put out content and get paid for it, and build up my following online? And like, I've seen people do it. And so we're going to need a robust broadband to pay for that. All these online, I mean, the whole world went on Zoom, and a lot of the Zoom meetings, work, whatever, shows, they're going to stay there. It'll be a hybrid world. I mean, there'll still be some, in person, and obviously in person is great, but it's something like you and I have talked about in our live stand-up shows, and our audience has asked for it, of like, and I don't think the comedy clubs have quite caught on to this yet, but like, let's do a live show, sell tickets, and then sell tickets online for their Zoom audience, and instead of 100 people at a comedy club, we've got 5,000 people watching us worldwide. And the fans are getting something great and everyone's making money. It's like, and you're going to need really fast internet to take on that load of streaming. And
dude,
how do we not have that?
One of my favorite bands, and I have a greater point too, but just as a random aside, since you brought this up, ironically enough, I am attending a virtual concert tonight. One of my favorite bands is a band called The Hold Steady. And they do these series of shows called Massive Nights, and they do it. Their last one is typically in December in the town where they live in. They live in Brooklyn, New York, and they do 3 nights in Brooklyn, New York. Now, they were supposed to do some shows in LA that got pushed back again because of the pandemic, and a couple of their other shows got pushed back because some of the pandemic. Some of them happened, and the Brooklyn shows are happening, but because they had to cancel some shows this year, they did one of the nights they're going to be streaming it as well. So I did get tickets for tonight to watch it online. I'm not going to be able to be there physically in Brooklyn, New York, but I am going to catch it online. And I already got my tickets because I had my tickets beforehand. So I got my tickets for LA. But so anyway, so to your point, yeah, that is part of the world we live in. But yeah, we were already in a global digital village. It just really got pushed to 11 as a result of the pandemic. And you kind of look at some of the circumstances we were in during the pandemic, and these are circumstances that we should never want to find ourselves in, and we should want to avoid forever. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, kids were having to go to school on Zoom. Now, I don't want kids to go to school on Zoom indefinitely, but the idea of online learning is a valuable tool that's certainly going to have a place in our society. And during a pandemic, it was the only tool we had. Now, there were people in areas of Philadelphia that were totally underserved with broadband. And because Comcast had a near monopoly in that area, they were counting on Comcast to build some hotspots so that kids could go places and do school. So basically, these kids were in like parking lots and stuff trying to go to school. We should not be in that situation where we're counting on one of the most hated companies in the world, Comcast. I mean, and deservedly so, one of the most hated companies in the world, one of the most despicable companies in the world. I have heard from some people who have had more inside exposure than I have that AT&T is even worse. But I mean, whatever. It's the bottom of the barrel. But one of the most hated companies in the world, regardless, is dictating whether or not our children get to learn. That's a failed state, first of all. And that's not a situation we should ever find ourselves in. So, if this pandemic didn't make it so brutally apparent that we need municipal broadband everywhere and we need it now and we needed it yesterday, I don't know what is. And I'm hoping that, as, the world is opening, that we really start hammering this home. And that's why, yes, in the Build Back Better Act, there is a portion set aside for broadband. It's not enough, but it's more than zero. And it's up to us to, take that, make the most of it, pressure states to do what California did. And when they do what California did, to make sure that it's utilized properly.
Excellent points, Ron Placone. Well, I know you got to go here, buddy. Where can people find your stuff? And I know you got some shows on the East Coast in April coming up.
Yeah, so you can find me at ronplacone.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Ron Placone, YouTube Ron Placone, Rockfin Ron Placone, all socials Ron Placone, Instagram, TikTok. I do have some tour dates in the spring. I'm going to be out east for a little bit, and I'm going to Canada. So Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Burlington, Vermont, Portland, Maine, Boston, Mass, and New York City, baby. You can get tickets for that now at ronplacone.com, and I can't wait to see you all. And of course, I'm going to be breaking ground on my movie soon. It is called Left at Wall. If you want to check out that trailer and if you want to help get it made, you can make a contribution on the GoFundMe. Just go to gofundme.com, type in Left at Wall. It comes right up. Or, of course, you can see it on my pinned tweet or check it out on my YouTube or Rockfin channel. If you want to make a contribution, that's great. But, hey, even if you can't, check out the trailer anyway. Share it with people. Let me know what you think because I'm real excited about breaking ground on that too.
Ron Placone, thank you for taking time out of your day to go through the Build Back Better, buddy. We are
Build back better, Graham.
I mean, listen, Fat, it's going to be a really, it's going to be a really great bill. So
it's just, I mean, the thing, thing. It's just, we got to get, sure. I don't know if Joe Biden knows what municipal broadband is. I'd be curious if you said that to him, would he know what it was? I doubt he would. We are governed by two types of people, Graham, people who don't understand the internet and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who can't handle the internet. And those are the people who make laws around the internet. And as somebody who really cares about digital rights and talks about it a lot, and it's been on campaigns for digital rights and it will be in the future, it's really, really freaking frustrating. But you know what? We still got to do our best.
We got to do our best, buddy. Well, good to have you on the show. And of course, we'll be doing the Anything Can Happen game show in the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
So tune back in for that. We're going to be doing a NFT fundraiser where you can buy an NFT, and then we're going to shoot the game show in front of a live audience. So it's that I'm going to be announcing that in the next like month. So stay tuned for all of that.
All right, Graham. Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
All right, buddy. Good to see you, man.
All right. Peace.
Later. Ron Placone, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our like 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood, and go to GrahamElwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.